Hey everyone, what's happening? Lex back today for another Brawl Stars video, and today, the second sneak peek in the January Brawl Stars update, and it is time to take a look at Mr. P. We're going to be getting into all the 1v1 interactions, but before we do that, let's take a look at his stat sheet. When we pull up his stats, we can check all this out. Pause it if you want to so you can read it all, but that is his brawler stats. Now, if you'll notice his star powers. There's two of them, and they have really weird red stuff. That's a big old work in progress because they haven't finished off the star power icons yet, but let's take a look at them. First one is called Handle with Care. Basically, if you shoot your shot and it doesn't hit anything, an obstacle or a brawler, normally it just stops and that's the end of that. With this star power, it will do its extra bounce regardless of whether it hits an obstacle or a brawler or not. His second star power is called Tin Can. It gives 3,000 more health to his Robo Porter's base. So the spawner itself, it has more health, a lot more health. Now, after the 1v1s, I'm going to be giving you guys some tips and tricks on which star powers you should be using and what modes he's going to be useful in, as well as a massive tip that'll help you, if you're facing off against Mr. P, cut his DPS in half. So I'm going to roll all of the 1v1s. Now, if any of them are like bang, bang, really, really close, you'll get an instant replay right after that, so you'll be able to see clearly who won. And then after they're all done, you'll see a chart on exactly who won, who tied, that happened, and who lost. Now, bear in mind that neither of Mr. P's star powers really affect his interactions with other brawlers 1v1 in these tests, so I didn't even put an icon up there because it didn't really matter. So with all that said, let's hop into the 1v1s with Mr. P versus every brawler in the game. Alright, so as you saw, there were 14 brawlers that beat Mr. P pretty handily. There was 5 brawlers that beat him, but barely. One of them, Tara, literally tied. I went down to the frame as you saw, and they straight up tied. And then there were 12 brawlers who lost to Mr. P. So, in terms of 1v1 interactions, which I know it's not a real life, this is exactly how a battle is going to be, but it is very useful information to know, you know, whether you should hop out and take that brawler head on, or if you need some sort of advantage like an extra shot, or they have less health, whatever that may be. But it's good to know those interactions. Before doing these, I thought that he was going to fare worse than this. Honestly, I thought that Mr. P was going to be kind of lackluster, and he's not great. He's just middle of the road, which is an okay place to be, honestly. Now, a spawner's pretty cool, but honestly, it doesn't make too much of a difference. The porters that come out of it, the little drones, they only have 2,100 hit points, and they move very slow. You can literally just run away from the drones, and they can't even hit you. Like, even though they're ranged attack, even like the slowest brawler, 8-bit, can still run away from the drones and never be hit at all. Now, with Mr. P spawner, usually what you're going to want to do is put it in the back, like say if you're playing Gym Grab, put it in a very back safe spot, not like all the way at the very back, because it takes time for those spawners to reach the battlefield, but put it back far enough to where it's going to be very safe, and it can pretty much live the entire match unless you get team wiped, and at that point you're kind of screwed anyway. So, it's not going to make too much of a difference. The only thing that it really does is help waste the enemy's ammo. And that's very beneficial. That can be a very big thing. But for the most part, is it going to make the difference on the battlefield? Probably not. Now, there is one situation where it does make a big difference, and that is in Showdown. You can use it as a meat shield. If you use his second star power, which generally I think his first star power is better than his second star power, but in some situations, if you needed to use his spawner as a meat shield, because when you place it down, it instantly spawns one. And if you're using his second star power, his spawner has almost 7,000 hit points, plus the 2,000 of the border. There is 9,000 hit points that the enemy brawler has to chew through before they get to you. That's a big, big deal, and that could absolutely 100% save you in Showdown. Like, for instance, Mr. P versus Bull. He gets demolished, right? As you can saw, Bull is number 1. However, if Bull comes at you and you drop your spawner down, Bull has to go through the spawner before he gets to you. It actually ends up Mr. P can beat Bull 1v1 close range if he has the second star power and he uses that spawner as a meat shield. I know, that's a lot of qualifiers, but it is a useful thing. Now, speaking of those star powers, again, I think the first star power is going to be a lot more useful. It extends your range, and range is a massive thing in Brawl Stars. So, for the most part, the spawner you're going to put down in a very safe spot. It doesn't really need the extra health. I think that they need to rework his second star power because it's just really not that good. Now, remember I told you there was one big tip that you could use to cut Mr. P's damage in half if you were going against him, and it's a very simple thing. And that is, do not run from Mr. P. Charge him. Or, at worst, strafe to the left or the right. Do not run away from Mr. P if he's in your range, because you will absolutely get hit by all of the shots. Case in point, check this out. Makes a huge difference. So, especially if you're a tank, just keep charging him. Unless you're got to a point where he can get around a wall and he can use those walls to hit his shots and bounce over and hit you, which is kind of cool because he's kind of like a quasi-pseudo thrower. Not really a thrower, but he can put some pressure on throwers. They can't just sit behind a wall. He can actually hit them from on the other side of the wall, which is pretty cool. As well as, like, if you are in a position where, like, say, a bull, you know where he is, he's in the grass, but he's behind the wall, and you can't hit him, you're kind of stuck. Well, you can hit the wall, and you can actually still put some pressure on Bull from the other side of the wall, which is really cool. I could see Mr. P doing pretty well in most game modes. Is he going to be stellar? Probably not. I think Gym Grab will probably be one of his better modes, but is he going to be great? I think, again, he's just going to be a support brawler. He's not going to be the star of the show. He's just going to be there, and I think that he'll do a good job as a support brawler, as a counter to some throwers, but he's not going to be just amazing. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting buffed, but I feel like he's in an okay spot, honestly. I feel like he's in an okay spot. But all in all, Mr. P is actually a really fun brawler, and I'm excited to actually get out and play with him, which I will be doing in Hot Zone. The next sneak peek that you guys are going to be wanting to see coming up sooner than you think. Be sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you can be the first to find out all about Hot Zone. But that's going to wrap it up for the 1v1 battles with Mr. P. You guys let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about Mr. P? Is he too strong? Is he too weak? Just right? What are your overall impressions of him? I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, until next time, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace out.